If we look into the world today, into the conversations people have, into social media, into daily concerns, we can notice a common thread weaving through almost everything, the sense of I, me, and mine. My ideas, my accomplishments, my failures, my identity, my story. This sense of I feels so natural, so unquestioned, that we rarely stop to ask, what exactly is this I? Where does it live? What is it made of? And why does it cause so much suffering? More than 2,500 years ago, after the Buddha gave his first sermon on the Four Noble Truths, he delivered a second teaching, shorter, sharper, and utterly revolutionary. This was the Anattā-lakkhaṇa Sutta, N. 2259, the discourse on the characteristics of not-self. To the first 5 disciples, the Buddha explained that nothing we take to be I or mine actually belongs to us. Not the body, not feelings, not perceptions, not thoughts, not consciousness. These are the 5 aggregates, the 5 processes that make up the experience we call a person. And the Buddha said, all of these are not self, they are not mine, they are not what I am. This statement was not meant to be philosophical, it was meant to be liberating. Because when we look deeply into the nature of the self, something astonishing begins to happen. The heavy burden we carry begins to fall away. So today, let us take a gentle journey into this profound teaching. Not to deny ourselves, not to erase our humanity, but to see clearly, to understand what the Buddha meant by non-self, and how this insight can transform our lives. We begin with a simple observation. The illusion of a solid self, inspired by the Anattā-lakkhaṇa Sutta. From the moment we wake up, the mind begins constructing a story. I am tired. I need coffee. I have a lot to do today. I hope people appreciate my work. Every thought revolves around a central character, me. But who is this me? Where does it begin and end? What is it made of? Most of us believe, at least subconsciously, that the self is like a solid core inside us, a fixed essence that moves through life like a little pilot sitting behind the eyes. But the Buddha discovered something radically different. He observed that what we call self is actually a moment-to-moment process, constantly changing, constantly arising and passing away. It is like a flame that appears continuous, but is actually being recreated each moment, or like a river that looks constant, but not a single drop of water stays the same. To illustrate this, think of your moods. You wake up cheerful. 2 hours later, you're irritated. Later, you feel confident, then insecure, then inspired, then bored. If the self were fixed, how could your emotional world change so quickly? Or consider your body. The cells in your skin replace themselves every few weeks. The bacteria in your gut shift daily. The thoughts in your mind come and go like birds landing on a tree. So what is the you that is constant? The Buddha's answer was direct. There is no permanent, unchanging self behind experience. The Five Aggregates, a closer look. Based on Anattā 22.59, the Buddha broke down human experience into 5 components. Form, the body. Feeling, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Perception, recognition. Mental formations, thoughts, reactions, intentions. Consciousness, awareness of experience. He asked the disciples, is the body permanent or impermanent? They replied, impermanent. If something is impermanent, is it fit to be regarded as this is mine, or this is me, or this I am? No, Lord. The Buddha repeated this for all 5 aggregates, and with each question, the disciples' understanding deepened. They saw that there was nothing solid to cling to, and because of this, suffering began to fall away. Let's unpack each of these aggregates with modern examples. The body, form. Think of how many times you have tried to control your body, wishing it were taller, slimmer, stronger, less sick, more energetic. But the body has its own nature. You can treat it well, but you cannot command it to be young forever. Feelings, pleasant and painful sensations arise constantly. Warmth, cold, hunger, comfort. But feelings are not you. They arise from conditions. What you eat, how you sleep, the weather, stress, hormones. We often say, I am happy or I am sad. But the Buddha would say, happiness is arising. Sadness is arising. That slight shift changes everything. Perception. Perception is how we label reality. We see a shape and call it tree. We hear a sound and call it insult. But labels are not reality. They are mental shortcuts. When we see this, we cling less tightly to our interpretations. Mental formations. These include thoughts, habits, judgments, memories, emotions, everything the mind constructs, and they change constantly. Think of how differently you interpreted a problem 5 years ago compared to today. That alone shows that mental formations are not a fixed self. Consciousness. Even consciousness is not stable. One moment you are fully aware. The next, you are distracted. Later, you are tired. Later still, alert again. Consciousness flickers like a candle flame. Seeing each aggregate clearly helps loosen the belief that they belong to a solid, unchanging I. Experiencing anatta in daily life. Let's bring this teaching into ordinary moments. Imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. The body tenses, a feeling of heat arises. A perception appears. That driver disrespected me. Mental formations arise. People are so rude, why me? I should teach him a lesson. Consciousness is filled with anger. But if you observe carefully, all of this happens automatically. Did you choose the feeling? Did you design the anger? Did you consciously decide to generate that story? These processes arise on their own, conditioned by past experiences, habits, and biological patterns. There is no self behind them. Or consider sadness. You wake up feeling low. Not because you chose it, but because a mix of conditions, sleep, hormones, memories, even the weather, gave rise to it. When you see sadness as a condition rather than an identity, it becomes lighter. You can say, sadness is present instead of, I am sad. One sentence imprisons you, the other frees you. The Buddha used everyday experiences to help his disciples see non-self. He didn't tell them to believe him. He asked them to look at their own minds. The teaching of Bahiya, direct and immediate, based on Udana 1.10. One day, a seeker named Bahiya approached the Buddha urgently. He asked for a teaching that would lead to liberation quickly. The Buddha replied, in the seen, there is only the seen. In the heard, only the heard. In the sensed, only the sensed. In the cognized, only the cognized. In other words, when seeing happens, do not add a seer. When hearing happens, do not imagine a listener. When thinking happens, do not create a thinker. Experience occurs naturally. It does not require a self to control it. This insight was so profound that Bahiya immediately awakened. To apply this today, try a simple exercise. When a sound appears, such as a dog barking or a car passing, just note sound. Don't add, I hear a sound. When a thought arises, note thinking. Don't add, I am thinking. This softens the illusion of I. The middle way between I exist and I do not exist, based on the Kakkanagotta Sutta, SN 1215, the Buddha warned that people often fall into two traps when contemplating the self. Everything truly exists. This leads to eternalism, the belief in a permanent soul. Nothing exists at all. This leads to nihilism, the denial of meaning. The Buddha rejected both extremes. Instead, he taught dependent origination. When this is, that is. When this arises, that arises. Things exist conditionally, not independently. The self is a process, not an object. Think of a rainbow. It appears beautiful, vivid, real, but it exists only when sunlight, water droplets, and the right angle are present. Remove any condition and the rainbow disappears. It is real, but not substantial. The self is like that rainbow, real as a phenomenon, but empty of a permanent core. The Fire Sermon, seeing the burning nature of attachment, based on the Anattā-lakkhaṇa Sutta, SN 3528. In the Fire Sermon, the Buddha said, "All is burning, burning with the fire of desire, the fire of aversion, the fire of delusion." He meant that when we cling to experience as me or mine, we burn. When we cling to pleasure, we fear losing it. When we cling to identity, we fear criticism. When we cling to views, we argue endlessly. But when there is no self to defend, no self to gratify, no self to protect, the fire's cool. Imagine holding a rope in the dark. You think it's a snake, your body tenses, your heart races. Fear explodes inside, but when the light turns on, you see it is only a rope. The fear disappears instantly. Realizing non-self is like turning on that light. The illusion dissolves. How non-self heals suffering. Many people misunderstand non-self as cold, empty, or nihilistic. But in practice, it is deeply compassionate. When you realize that others, like you, are conditioned processes shaped by their upbringing, fears, genetics, experiences, your heart softens. You blame less. You forgive more easily. You understand that people act out their conditioning, often unconsciously. Non-self is the foundation of patience and compassion. It also brings relief. Think of how much anxiety revolves around protecting an image of yourself. How do people see me? Do they like me? Am I successful enough? Am I attractive enough? These worries are exhausting because they are based on a fragile story. When the story of I becomes lighter, life becomes lighter. Non-self also reduces fear. The fear of failure, the fear of rejection, even the fear of death. Because when there is no solid self to defend, what is there to lose? The Buddha said in the Dhammapada, "He who has no attachment, who is free from I and mine, is truly at peace." Practicing non-self in daily life. Let us explore some simple ways to experience this teaching. Aware of the body. When walking, notice how the body moves on its own. You do not consciously instruct every muscle. Walking happens. There is movement, not a mover. Aware of thoughts. When thinking occurs, observe that thoughts arise spontaneously. You don't choose them. They appear, stay briefly, then vanish. There is thinking, not a thinker. Aware of emotions. When anger arises, instead of saying, "I am angry," try saying, "Anger is present." Feel the difference. One phrase fuels the fire, the other cools it. Aware of speech. Before speaking, pause for a moment. Notice that the intention to speak forms before you choose it consciously. This reveals the conditioned nature of mental formations. Aware of change. When you feel discomfort, remind yourself, this is impermanent. When you feel joy, remind yourself, this too is impermanent. This gentleness softens attachment. Each moment becomes an opportunity to understand the nature of self. The quiet revolution of letting go. There is a story of a monk who carried a heavy bucket of water from the river every day. One day, the bucket broke. He had spent years worrying about spilling water. Now, with no bucket, he was free. He laughed at the simplicity of it. In the same way, when the bucket of I, me, mine breaks, a great weight lifts. You still live, feel, love, and participate in the world, but without clinging, without fear, without the burden of a rigid identity. This is what the Buddha meant by freedom. He was not telling us to erase ourselves. He was telling us to stop imprisoning ourselves. The practical impact of anatta. Here are a few real-life transformations that arise naturally from this insight. Less anger. You see others as processes, not enemies. Less anxiety. There is no solid self to protect. More compassion. Understanding replaces judgment. More gratitude. Every moment feels lighter and more precious. More authenticity. Without a self to perform, you become natural. More peace. Life is no longer a battlefield. This is not philosophy. It is liberation. The Buddha often encouraged his disciples to ask, "What is it that I call me? Is it the body, feelings, thoughts, memories? And do these remain unchanged? Can they truly be mine?" When you look honestly, the story begins to unravel, not into emptiness, but into spaciousness, into freedom. You are not a fixed identity. You are a dynamic unfolding, a moment-by-moment dance of conditions, a process as fluid as clouds, as vibrant as waves, as ungraspable as a flame. The Buddha said, "One who sees dependent origination sees the Dharma. One who sees the Dharma sees the Buddha." To see non-self is to see truth. To see truth is to be free. As we end this teaching, may you sit quietly for a moment, feel the breath, notice the sensations, observe the thoughts, watch them arise and pass away, and gently ask, if all of these come and go, where is the self? Let the question open your heart, not to doubt, but to discover. Not to destroy identity, but to release its burden. Not to escape the world, but to awaken within it. May this insight bring peace. May it bring clarity. May it loosen the knots of fear and clinging. May it reveal the vast, open nature of your being. And may all who hear this teaching be guided toward the Buddha's liberation.